This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. A better way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much in joining us in what we're going to do here on episode 116 of the Auburn Experience podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Loomis, and alongside me, back welcoming him on a, I hope, spring break week for him, Mr. Austin Scott. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, War Eagle Kyle? Glad to hear and see you feeling better. The last time we were on the show, you were hopeful you weren't getting sick and you went through it this week. But we are glad to see you're alive and good to be back.
No, I was not sick because of what happened yesterday in many facets, not just basketball. Lots of late-minute failures. And Austin was at every one of them is what I heard. But either way, yes, I'm feeling better. I may have a little bit of a cough here and there. I had a battle with essentially was the flu this week. But think about it this way, folks. For those of you that watched, for those of you that listened to episode 115, that was the last moments that I felt any semblance of normalcy since now. So I've literally spent my best moments in this week with you all bookending. So just feel special, I guess, if you want to. I don't know if it does make you feel special. You're probably like, it's more pain for us. We feel sick when we watch and listen to you. Kyle, shut up. Do the show. Okay, let's do it. We've got a lot to discuss in Auburn potpourri. We might actually do a little bit extended time in that, depending on how this goes. But there's some interesting subjects this week that we want to dive into, some bigger implications for programs and things. So let's do that. Let's start with football, though, and talk about the biggest news for Auburn football this week. And we got an updated schedule for 2025. Now, it's not like across the board. It's just one game, the opening game, the Baylor game. And yes, Walker White's going to be there. We'll be talking about that. It'll lead up to that. That'll be one of the big, it'll be like Jarrett Stidham. Hey, did you know he's from Texas and that he's getting married? And hey, did you know that Bo Nix was having fun? It'll be that type of repeated thing over and over again. The news, Auburn and Baylor have now moved their game officially from Saturday to Friday, and I believe it is confirmed Friday night, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Scott.
Yes, I don't know if they've put a time out. I think maybe 7:00 was something I saw.
Okay.
But Friday night from Saturday, where there wasn't a time designation, saw a lot of interesting takes about this as the news was coming out. I think some people are upset that Auburn's not going to be on the opening weekend on Saturday. I don't really understand that. The college football weekend, opening weekend tends to run like Wednesday to Monday, it feels like anyway. So who really cares? For me, I'm all about it. Auburn, a little more exposure. They'll be the premier game on Friday night, which will be pretty awesome. And on a more personal note, for anyone who's trying to go, the Middle of Texas heat on a Saturday, no. Friday night, a little bit better. So I'm all about that. Not much, but a little bit better. You get an under the lights game to start the year, albeit away. But I'm excited about it. I think it's a great move for both schools. You get an extra day for travel and an extra day for prep for the home opener. So I don't see really a negative to this other than if you just want to be a purist and be like, we should play on Saturdays.
It's definitely been a grumpy man, time at the early part of this week when this was announced. But it's happening, folks. So you can be mad about it. You can be grumpy about it all you want. It's happening whether you like it or not. I think some of the frustration comes from that it's a Friday and not a Saturday. That's the tradition. But also it does present some travel challenges, especially if you've already booked your stuff.
Sure.
And you may now have to arrive a day earlier. For people like me who are already planning on being there, have a little bit more flexibility in their lives, I recognize that it's not that big a deal. I'm already planning what likely will be road trip out there. Austin, I think, has plans to be out there.
Can we get that streamed the whole way? Your
whole
road trip?
Now, if you would ride with me and be the videographer, I will give you gold content from that. But we'll do some stuff from Baylor. I don't know what yet, but I'm excited for this because I think it eliminates the heat to some degree, at least the intensity of it.
Correct.
It gives Auburn more exposure, as you talked about, and Baylor more exposure, because let's be honest, Baylor and Auburn are both not at places in their programs currently for this start of the season where they're going to garner the attention of an Auburn and Oregon did in Texas in prime time. So this is a good move. I like it a lot, especially if Auburn comes out there and does some special things on the road. And it's a great way to get this home and home series kicked off, because we do know this, folks, when we come back a year from that time, it'll be under the lights at Jordan-Hare, and they ain't ready for it. So either way, get used to it. Schedule update for you. Auburn versus Baylor Friday night, no longer on Saturday. Let's move into some news that's probably, it's definitely sad whenever we lose someone as part of the family, the coaching tree, the group of leaders amongst all of our athletic programs. Today, or not today, this actually earlier this week, it was announced at the conclusion of their SEC tournament competition, the women's basketball team, that Coach Johnny Harris was let go as Auburn women's basketball coach after only 4 years. Am I right on that? 4 years?
Right.
Yeah, 4 years. So this is something that's been, I think, this week, I don't want to say hotly debated, but there's been some discussion around that, because I think you can find yourself on sides of the fence. Was this too early? Was this warranted? All those kind of things. I've been someone, frankly, that's been very happy with Coach Johnny Harris and I've talked about trajectories a lot, and up until this season, the trajectory has been quite nice. The kind of things that they had started to do as a program, put together, recruiting, all that stuff. But for whatever reason, the decision has been made to move on from Coach Johnny Harris to someone else in the future. So I guess your thoughts and reactions to what happened this week.
Yeah, I think like many, I was initially surprised. I'm surprised to see that happen right after the day after the Florida loss in the SEC tournament. Like you said, this was not a season many were happy about. It definitely didn't look like this was the type of season that you have in year 4 when there's been progress shown. I think there's a lot of factors for that. Insurance. What in the world did that come from?
I don't know what you're doing.
I was going to say recruiting. I guess that could be insurance too. But recruiting has certainly been doing well with Coach Harris. It was leading into this year. It has been already throughout this season. So, you'd hope to see the results of that. I think injuries also played a role in the year not being as great as one would hope. Certainly with Talia Scott being injured for majority of your year, as a player at Arkansas who was getting 20 points a game, you'd hoped on that kind of production here as well. So, at the end of the day, we know how important relationships are in this business, and I think John Cohen did not hire Johnny Harris, albeit they have had plenty of interactions and relationships in the past at Mississippi State and in the coaching world profession. But I think that this is probably one of those things where John Cohen has been at a place where Mississippi State before has had very successful women's basketball. And he feels like he has the time and opportunity here to make a change and maybe get that program a little bit higher. I certainly think that, with Coach Harris, when she came in, the program was at a lower point than she's leaving it. Yes. I certainly believe that's the case. And I think she has done a great job during her tenure here. Should she have gotten one more year? That's certainly something up for debate. But the reality is she won't. And so we'll have to see where this goes.
Yeah. And, my rule of thumb, I've discussed this a lot, no matter the sport we're talking about, outside of extenuating circumstances, I think coaches should be given a minimum of 4 years. And so this does qualify for that. If you had asked me, I probably would have kept her around for another year, but that's just me. And I don't know all the details. And I think people forget that sometimes in the heat of moment about decisions about this. Here's what I do know. I really appreciated the way that she led the program. I love the way that she carried herself. I was always proud to have her representing the orange and blue. And certainly, I like what you said, whether this is the right decision or the thing that needed to happen. She left the program in a better position than it was when she took it over. And that's not even a knock at Coach Flo before, because I love Coach Flo, but it was not in a good position. But either way, she left her impact, accomplished some great things. We'll just have to see who the next person is that wants to accomplish those great things. And I'm sure you and I will be discussing that probably not in the far too distant future if we're if we're taking guesses. But hope that the program and all the ladies that are and the staff are involved with that are dealing with that in an okay manner. And we'll be watching and waiting to talk about hopefully some more happier news on that front soon. Let's move away from sports for just a minute here and talk a little bit of something academic related, but it's kind of cool. And it struck me as something I wasn't anticipating. I don't know why, but we've mentioned this very briefly from some of the previous Board of Trustees meetings, that the announcement came that the Auburn University bookstore in Haley Center was getting remodeled, renovated, and there was really no timeline given. But according to the TikTok account,
pretty quick.
This is how I found out from the TikTok account that they are officially moving already into that period. And for the rest of the spring semester, the entirety of the summer, it looks like till August, based off that video I watched, moving into Beard Eaves Memorial Coliseum. So once again, the abyss that is Beard Eaves swallows something else up, at least temporarily, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
We've seen this before. I think when I was in school, the Honors College moved into the Beard Eaves for a time when Catherine Cooper Cater Hall was being renovated. But, you know, the Honors College is a little bit different than the bookstore. We see many pass through the bookstore regardless of their academic prowess. So interesting spot. I think it's a great spot. It'll be really fun to see kind of how they set up. And a lot of people will probably enter Beard Eaves Coliseum for the bookstore that have not in the past. So really interesting to see. I'm very excited to go see that whenever they get it all set up. I'm sure they'll be open. It's spring break this week on Auburn University's campus. So I'm sure they will try to be open once we're back in session next Monday. So we'll see, and we'll have to keep you updated on it. If I get over there, I'll try to take some pictures, but I think that's exciting. Be a little bit different. And as much as we're in the apparel world of going back to like vintage things. What better place could you be at? So pretty cool to see.
It really is. It's a good opportunity to go over there and see that again. I mean, I think we all recognize it's probably not long for this world.
Sure.
You know, who knows? We don't know. I'm not hinting anything, but it's old. It's not doing a whole lot. I mean, it's doing some things.
There's some asbestos in there, but
I wasn't going to talk about that. What are you doing? We don't talk. It's like
your textbooks and T-shirts might smell a little bit,
but certainly you go check it out. I will. It'll be there when I get over to campus here, hopefully soon. But I definitely will go look at the new renovations in August when it comes out for the bookstore and check that out. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the new age of bookstores and things of that nature.
Yes, agreed.
Let's round out our time really quickly with Auburn in the Pros. I love to do this when we get an opportunity. We got a plethora of that this week. One that we need to start with, because my goodness, have some stats, son. Walker Kessler, obviously, just Walker Kessler, one of the best basketball players Auburn's had and Bruce Pearl has had in some time. Still with the Utah Jazz. Let me just give you some stats. Let me see what you think about these, Austin. 18 points, pretty good, right?
That's not bad.
8 blocks. That's pretty good, right?
Not bad.
How do you feel about 25 rebounds?
Well, I'd like him to donate a few to our current team, but that's 25 rebounds is pretty good too. That's quite a stat sheet, and that's all in one night, right?
Yes, that is all in one night versus the Toronto Raptors. That was this previous week, this game. Obviously, if you're worried about Walker not getting as much prominence these days, don't worry, because he found a way to be very prominent with 25 flipping rebounds. That's incredible. Can you imagine?
Unbelievable. I think that, for the non-NBA fans out there, Utah Jazz they're in a bit of a slump right now, but Walker's been mentioned as a trade candidate every now and then, and we're past the deadline now, but he certainly will be up for an extension or a new deal somewhere else soon enough. So I think once he gets to another team, he will be, when that day comes, if that day comes, he'll be highly valued if he keeps putting up numbers like that. So really cool to see his career especially coming out of that 1 year at Auburn, be so successful.
Absolutely. Let's talk about soccer pros because we got some announcements for a recent name for Auburn soccer. Maddie Prohaska, the goaltending phenom for us of several years. Obviously, she wasn't, it's not too far removed from us, but she was officially picked up by the Seattle Reign. That is spelled REIGN, not rain as in what they have year round there, but I guess they reign in soccer. But she gets picked up. We see this a lot from, I know Coach Karen Hoppe is retired now, but from Coach Karen Hoppe players, they get into the pros and they find their place. And Maddie Prohaska has already found her home in Seattle.
Yeah, pretty cool to see. The women's pro soccer league is becoming more and more popular with different teams popping up, different franchises popping up. So find your Auburn players and find your team if you're looking to stay involved. And the Seattle Reign sounds like it could get some new Auburn fans following it soon.
Well, I'll tell you this, it ain't going to be raining on Maddie Prohaska because she's a pretty dang good goalkeeper. Ain't nothing going to be raining in that net for a while. They picked up a good one. As a final AU in the pros note, and this is actually about a current player, but as his journey continues, is getting closer and closer to the pros. Jackson Coyven is, and I'm just going to say it. I don't understand the whole golf pro world and stuff, but the note I have is 1 point away from his PGA Tour card, is my understanding. Did I have that right?
I think that's right. And I think that would mean if he would like to, he could start earning money and going pro. I don't want to speak for Jackson, but I think he has said before he is very content and happy to be in college with his friends and getting, I think he even mentioned free food. I'll have to go look up the quote. But and in this age of NIL, they're basically pro already, but in a different era. So pretty cool for him. And he's obviously doing well, just fine where he's at Auburn and on the amateur pro level too.
Yeah, and so obviously that's not an official pro yet, but we know he's heading that direction. I do believe I saw the same quote that you are, that he acknowledged he'd rather stay. Obviously things can change, but just goes to show you it wasn't just a freshman phenom season. The kid continues to do great things and will be on to the bigger stages very, very soon. That's going to do it for Auburn Potpourri. Let's talk about our main topics this evening. And this is a basketball week update that I don't want to do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Should we just skip it?
We could. I mean, the people listening know what happened. It is quite the contrast from where we were exactly this time a week ago, celebrating the SEC championship with an 0-2 week that came up. But I think that, here we are after that 0-2 week and just days ahead of the SEC tournament starting. Coaches love to have the coach speak of it's a new season, right? And now it is one and done. After this conference tournament level, so you better get all your kinks out. Auburn certainly got a lot of kinks out this week. They resulted in 2 losses, but plenty to learn from, and so we'll talk about it. But I think the SEC tournament is on the horizon and an exciting thing to preview as well.
Yeah, we'll spend the majority of our time previewing the SEC tournament here in just a second, but let's not be Bama fans and not take our lumps here. Okay, Auburn lost to Texas A&M on the road 72-83. And then had to let Mark Sears do what Mark Sears does. He's a great basketball player. I'm going to give him his due. 91-93, the Tide beats the Tigers in their final home game, the final game of the regular season. And in some ways, putting a really bad taste to the end of what's been an amazing season. But Austin, I just got to say this again, and I'm having to just understand people's mentality on this. I don't get it. How you can diminish, how you can minimize what Auburn has accomplished in this regular season, regardless of this week and how it has ended. I just don't understand how you can't process what Auburn did in non-conference, in the majority of conference play, did to Alabama at their place, did to several other great teams. The quad one, was it 16 quad one wins at this point?
Yeah, 16.
I mean, am I just stupid or something? Or I just don't get this downplaying of what Auburn did.
Sure. And I think it's the age of what have you done for me lately? Sure. I understand recency bias is there. And this week leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, no more than the players and coaches. But I think too, you cannot underestimate what this team has done. They won the SEC championship in the SEC hardest league in college basketball history with a week to go. If you want to make the argument, these 2 last games didn't matter, I could see it. And I think that you could even say that there's plenty of these bracketologists or experts that have said this team is the number 1 overall seed running away with it. And that's before this week, and even so, still today. So when a week from now, it's on Selection Sunday, we will still be talking about this team as a 1 seed, because these people look at their body of work, and the body of work Auburn has goes up with many of the great regular seasons in college basketball history. When you look at who they've played, how they've played, and the resume they have, it speaks for itself. So, nobody wanted to win against Alabama and A&M more than these players and coaches. It didn't happen, but it does not undermine at all the season they've had. And it's an incredible season, and they've got bigger things on their mind coming up with another chance to win a trophy this weekend and another chance to win a trophy here in a month or so. So
yeah,
there's still plenty of time for this team to accomplish bigger goals.
So before we move into that, let me ask you this: based off what you saw this week, what are the important things for Auburn to address to change the trajectory of this week? Or do you think it's as simple as some of these things you can't help, like the energy level dropped off because they had already won it, or things like, you'd hate to think that's the reason, and maybe it is, but what in your mind is something you look at and say, Auburn's got to do this better?
Yeah, well, I think the energy thing's a valid point. We talked about that with our Concord Club this week. The rest was a factor, but I think that really is limited to Texas A&M. On the road against a matchup historically Auburn and Bruce Pearl have not done well against, with A&M and Buzz Williams, who are incredible team, incredible coach at the sport. I think that's totally fair, but I think A&M played a great game and they schemed Auburn well. As far as yesterday in the Alabama game, we said it after the win in Coleman Coliseum, these two teams are far and away some of the best teams in college basketball. It took extra time for them to determine who would win yesterday. But I think that if we're talking strictly from a basketball standpoint, the thing that has changed the most in the last week or week and a half is rebounding. And it just doesn't seem like the front line for Auburn is getting the rebounds we saw them getting when they were so dominant in the middle and early part of their SEC season run. I think Bruce Pearl mentioned that a bunch yesterday. Janai Broom mentioned how he hasn't had some double doubles lately, and his rebounding has been off. I think for those teams or those players of Auburn's main rebounders to figure out what they need to work on in terms of getting more rebounds, not giving as many shots back to the opponent, will be a big point of emphasis, because those are the kind of things that lose you games in March. And so I think that the coaches know that, and they have more points than I do about what's not working, what is working. And they'll be all over it this weekend and into the tournament, I'm sure. But I think there's plenty to talk about of what didn't go right, what didn't go wrong. But I think, like we were just talking about with the body work, so much has gone right for Auburn this season and this coaching staff that I trust them.
I will say this: you already hit on a few of the points. It goes back to what I talk about and emphasize in every post-game show: the big three things: rebounds, turnovers, and free throws.
Sure.
Rebounds being the biggest, as you kind of already talked about. Free throws, they're free for a reason. They change the course of games. They change the outcomes of games. Please, free throws. It's not that. It's free. Let's do it. Come on. Okay. They know it. They understand it. They know the assignment. I don't need to repeat it to them, but I'm going to do it for the sake of everybody listening and watching here, because I know that's what the question we're asking. Either way, so we're going to move forward. Congrats to Texas A&M and Alabama for getting, a very hard-earned quad win over the best team in the land. You can only hope a few times to catch us, and do it while you can.
I think I still saw a banner in Neville Arena yesterday, though.
I think I still saw the banner. I think I still saw a locked up number 1 seed. I still think I see possible overall number 1 seed. I mean, okay. Anyway, let's talk about what's ahead of us really quickly. We have got the SEC tournament. Obviously, Auburn's the number 1 overall seed, and it's going to be quite an interesting year for the SEC tournament with how this thing could shake out. So we're going to do this as fast as we possibly can while giving you some overview thoughts here. And I want you, Austin, to give me maybe just what are you thinking about this SEC tournament? While you're doing that, I'm going to try to pull up a different graph or a different bracket, see if we can see on the screen. So your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that it has been talked about on this show. It's been talked about by national pundits. This is the premier conference in college basketball, possibly college basketball history. Mm-hmm. So it will be a lot of fun. There will be plenty of chaos, plenty of lead up into the big tournament. And so I think it's really exciting to see what Nashville will bring. It's always a great tournament, but especially with the caliber of teams we have this year, it'll be a lot of fun. I keep reminding myself that on Wednesday, we usually have 2 games, but this year we'll have a full slate of 4 games because of the additions of Texas and Oklahoma. There you go. That looks great.
We go. That's a lot better than what we tried pre-show.
You're right. I'm proud of you for doing that on the fly. So I loved seeing, on conference tournament week, which for me it's spring break this week, which is even better because I got plenty of time to watch. I love seeing the 4 games on Wednesday, and I know they're the bottom 8 teams in this league. I don't care. I can't wait to watch all of it, and from 12 o'clock and on. So it'll be exciting.
There are no throwaway games here, in my opinion.
None.
I get LSU and South Carolina have not been great in terms of results, but they have produced some scary moments.
This is March.
This is March, baby. Saddle up. It's going to be fun. The SEC tournament is premier basketball right now. Okay, let's do the non-Auburn side of things first, work our way to who could potentially see Auburn could potentially see if they make it that far. Slight prediction, just quick predictions from us here. Let's go in that first game, LSU versus Mississippi State. Who do you got?
I got State. I think Mississippi State will beat LSU and move on.
In a close one, I have Mississippi State as well. I think LSU is going to scare them a little bit. I do think Mississippi State's a much better team than the number 10 seed in this one.
I do too.
But as I've told you, even these bottom 2 teams, you got to look out for them. But Mississippi State moves on. Oklahoma at Georgia. At Georgia. This is all in Nashville, by the way. Oklahoma versus Georgia. Who you got? I
got the Bulldogs. I think Georgia will pull ahead. They've just been playing better lately, and I think Oklahoma's had a rough year.
Yeah, I do. I think they're probably the ones that have probably had the most rough year in the SEC just because their expectations were probably much higher than this. Georgia has been a bit of an upstart team at times, like being much higher ranked, but then falling back down. I think Georgia wins this one too. So it seems like we're pretty even coming through the pike here so far. Missouri versus Mississippi State for us. Another interesting matchup. Missouri's been a team that's been very, very strong, especially late in the season. Thankful we didn't have to see them until we got to only see them in the beginning of the SEC schedule. Who do you got?
I'm sorry, which game?
Missouri, Mississippi State.
Okay, we're moving ahead in the next game. Yeah, I'm going to pick Missouri. It's hard for me to believe that they ended up at a 7, just because of how well they've been playing this year, and they were so close to getting to that Friday double bye. But I think that Missouri will probably take down Mississippi State. They've trailed off here at the very end of the year, but I've got Missouri moving on to Friday.
Yeah, we're doing things a little bit unconventional here. I'm moving through this side of the bracket, and then we'll come back to the Auburn side. Doing a little bit different, just trying new things. I've got Missouri as well going on this one. I think they're just playing too strong right now. Gates has got them playing very, very strong. Kind of scared of them, to be honest. Thankfully, they're on the other side. Have you noticed that on this side of the bracket, a lot of Auburn's current and potential problems will all take themselves out?
Yeah, very true. Like this is why you work for the whole season to get that 1 seed.
Yes.
You tend to get the benefit.
Yes. All right. Georgia versus Kentucky is what we have predicted for this next matchup. What do you think?
I will go the Cats. I think the Cats have been playing very well lately. Obviously had the big win at Missouri. Auburn took them down last weekend, but I think that Kentucky will do enough to beat Georgia and move on to Friday.
I agree. Kentucky moves on, and too much talent, even for Georgia, who's playing well at times this year. I think that is who moves on. Next up in the quarterfinals on this side of the bracket, Florida versus Missouri is what we both had. Maybe do we see some difference here? What do you think?
We could. I'm going to go the Gators because I think the Gators are the second best team in America, behind your Auburn Tigers. But I think Florida and Ty Golden are absolutely dominant so far this year. I think that they have got a lot worked out, regardless of the injuries that have come their way. I think they'll beat Missouri and move into the semifinals for the second straight year.
I'm going to still say with the Gators there. I think this is going to be one of the best matches we talked about thus far, though, between Missouri and Florida. I'm very much looking forward and hoping that one comes to fruition. On the other side of that quarterfinal, you've got Alabama versus Kentucky, which will also be an incredible matchup based off the performance of both teams this year. Once again, thankful that they are all eliminating each other, at least the majority of them. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The fact that Missouri, Florida, Kentucky, and Alabama are the quarterfinal games that we have predicted on the other side of the bracket is the best draw you can ask for, in my opinion, if you're an Auburn fan. I think Alabama will beat Kentucky. I think they'll move on to the semifinals. I think it'll be a very, very high scoring game, and I love that it's that late night game in Nashville. I think they've played that late night game against each other a couple times here in the last few years, and so I think that'll be a great one to cap it off on Friday night. But I think it'll set up for another big Alabama-Florida one.
Not so fast, my friend.
All
Big
right.
Blue Nation loves the SEC tournament, and they take down the Alabama Crimson Tide and knock them off their little high horses they're on right now because they've been having to stay behind us for the most of the year. But it could go either way. I'm just going to predict Kentucky wins this one. So either way, we've got Florida in this semifinal game to get to the championship game. Then you got either Alabama or Kentucky. Who are you sending through?
I'm sending Florida through, regardless of if they're playing Alabama or Kentucky. I think Florida is just too good. I have them playing Alabama, and they've already shown they can beat them this year. And I think that Florida team is Final Four good. And I think that they will give any team they face a bunch of fits. It's March, so anything can happen, but I think Florida will head to the SEC championship for the second straight year.
And I will agree with you, even though I differed on who the opponent would be. I think Florida makes it through for the second straight year. Now, the big question is, on the other side of the bracket, who will Auburn be facing and what are their chances to make it for that rematch, not just of the season, but of last year's SEC championship tournament game? Let's work through it real quick. South Carolina and Arkansas to get us started off in the first round on that side. Who do you got?
Yeah, just a surprising year all the way around for South Carolina, right? After such a great year last year, Lamont Paris being head coach or coach of the year in the league. But I think that their misery will be put to an end. I think Arkansas and John Calipari, his first time wearing red in Nashville, he'll take down South Carolina.
I agree. I think John Calipari will find the magic, even though he's not with Kentucky. Arkansas moves on. Next up, Texas versus Vanderbilt. This one could be quite interesting. Vanderbilt's been a bit of an upstart team. Probably should be in that second group, the at least first round bye in some people's eyes. What do you think?
I'm going to say Vanderbilt, but it would not surprise me in the least bit with Texas for this first game if they take down Vanderbilt. I think Trey Johnson for Texas is an incredible player. I think he might be newcomer of the year in the SEC or freshman of the year. I love the way he plays, and I think he's got the perfect kind of moxie and player to be that March falls in love with and wills the team on a run. But I'm going to pick Vanderbilt for this game.
I'm going to pick Texas for this game.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Trey Johnson, and I think that this one could literally go. It might be the most competitive of all of the first rounders that we've talked about. Okay, we both picked Arkansas to move on. Let's talk about Arkansas versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been a very good team this year. What do you think? Who moves on to face Auburn?
Yeah, I think that we'll get that third game between Auburn and Ole Miss here. I think Chris Beard is one of the best play-by-play coaches we have in the league. I think he'll do a good job against John Calipari and this team. And Ole Miss will move on to Friday against the number 1 seed Auburn.
I disagree. I think John Calipari finds the magic and gets the win to move on to face Auburn in a rematch. Auburn versus Arkansas in the quarterfinals. On the other side of that side of the bracket, we have got differing opponents for Texas A&M, but does the outcome matter? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it does matter. I'm picking Vanderbilt to make it to the quarterfinals on Friday. I just like the way this team plays. I think that they have a lot of guards that can make big time plays with A&M's guards. They certainly have Wade Taylor, but just injury bug has been an issue with A&M. I think Vanderbilt, let's not forget, this is in Nashville, and they've like Kyle said, they've been an upstart team with a lot of attendance this year. I think Vanderbilt will be able to make it a really good game, win really late, and beat A&M and move on to set up a rematch with their in-state rivals, Tennessee.
Even with all the injuries, the talent is just too good. Buzz Williams is just a nightmare of a matchup against. I still have Texas A&M going through. So we are very different in this side of the bracket thus far. Okay. Let's save Auburn's pick for just a second here and finish this last one that won't include Auburn, and that's the one we just talked about. He had Vanderbilt moving all the way through to face Tennessee, so a Tennessee versus the state of Tennessee matchup here in Nashville. And then I had Texas A&M. So what do you think? Are you saying Vanderbilt moves forward still? Or are you going to pick Tennessee?
No, the dream will end for the Commodores. I think Tennessee moves on to the semifinals, and we get the that would ruin my pick for the other game. But we'll get Tennessee on the Saturday, and they get the best of Vanderbilt in the in-state rivalry.
Yeah, I'm going to say that Tennessee moves on even if they face Texas A&M. I think that if that is when the injuries will catch up to Texas A&M if they haven't already. Auburn versus either Ole Miss or Arkansas, we differ. Does Auburn get the monkey off its back? Does Auburn move forward into the semifinals, Austin?
Yeah, I think they do. I think Auburn breaks their losing streak. We got a lot of rest. I think the double bye could not come at a better time for Auburn. They will get nearly a week off to work on all these things that we've been talking about, all these things they've already planned and prepared for this week. And I think Auburn will take down either of those opponents that they're placing, whether it's Ole Miss, Arkansas, or South Carolina. And I think that this team will grind it out and be able to work on things. But I think the talent of Auburn will overcome that opponent, and they'll get on to Saturday. So I have the top 4 seeds in the semifinals on Saturday, basically chalk.
Yeah, basically it looks like at this point. I have Auburn moving forward over Arkansas in what is going to be, I think, a tough fight. I think Calipari is just going to be someone who's itching to prove himself in the SEC tournament once again outside of Kentucky, but Auburn gets the job done. Auburn versus Tennessee, no matter how you slice it for us, who wins?
It's going to be an absolute dogfight. It was in Neville Arena back in January. I think, though, since that game, Tennessee has lost a lot of their defensive prowess. I know Auburn just gave up 90, but I think Auburn's shown on a grander scale that they have consistently done what they were doing leading into that game since then. So I think Auburn plays Florida in a rematch for the SEC championship.
I think my heart tells me that that's what we're going to have. I am a little snake bitten by this week, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and trust not just one game that was a bad game and 2 games that was a bad game, but the entire body of work, as some of you online need to learn, that you, just because you want to sound cool and hip with the times around the water cooler, oh, look, Auburn's not a Final Four team just because they lost 2 games. Look at the full body of work, folks. I'm telling you, I'm out here with this team. I'm putting my faith in Coach Pearl, these players, these seniors, these older guys to get it right. They return to the championship game, Auburn, Florida, rematch of the season, rematch of last year. So that is the question, Austin, for us at hand. Do the Auburn Tigers take down the Florida Gators for the SEC tournament title? What say you?
Man, I really wish I would say yes. I think the student will get the better of his master this time around. I think that this Florida matchup for Auburn, it just does not look good. It didn't look good when they came into Neville Arena. They have the personnel to beat Auburn, and they've already shown it once. Now, it could go back and forth. I think it'll be much closer than it was in Neville Arena because both have learned from the other. Certainly more so on Auburn's side than Florida learning what they need to do to beat Auburn. They already know that. But I think that will be a very, very close game. But I think that not back-to-back for Auburn in the SEC tournament, but they'll get a loss in Nashville against Florida.
I hate that we agree so much, and I hate that
they're good, man. They are a very good team.
They are a good basketball team, and we are thankful that all of that side of the bracket gets to eliminate each other, all but one, but the best is going to come out of it. And I will say that Todd Golden gets to show why he's such a great coach and takes down the Auburn Tigers, sadly, in the SEC tournament title. But it's a good bounce back for the Tigers after this week.
Here's what I hope. If this comes to fruition, I hope that gives them enough to be the number 2 overall seed, the other 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and put them on the other side. Yeah, different corners. Like, just if they make the SEC championship and then beat Auburn again, we're not here to debate. This isn't the Duke experience, so we're not going to debate their week schedule. But I think that they should far and away prove they are far more talented than the cakewalk Duke will have the ACC title in their tournament. So far away as possible for Florida. I would love that.
Well, no matter how you shake it, I think we both expect a relative bounce back for the Tigers. Maybe not to the fullest extent, but at least returning mostly to form.
It's going to be such a fun week.
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be so fun. So saddle up, folks. There's our preview and our predictions. Certainly we'd love to hear yours as well. Let's move to our final topic this evening. And as we told you in the spring, you're going to hear a lot of baseball, softball talk during our Diamond Week a week of sports. And we'll update. I think we did softball last week, so we could start in the baseball round since it's really the only thing that's completed its week. Sure. Softball's got a bit of an odd schedule right now. Mixed bag week, I think, is fair assessment of Auburn baseball. They had a midweek game versus UAB, which they lost in the final inning, 5-6 at UAB, but it is UAB. And as we told you guys, these midweek Alabama teams especially are very good. Weekend series, ODU, Old Dominion came to town. Auburn won 10-4. The first game they lost. We'll talk about that one. 9-11.
First game they won. Second game they lost. Right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. First game they won 10-4. Second game they lost 9-11. We'll talk about the story behind that one. And then they just earlier today completed the series win to round out the series non-conference series that they will play.
That's crazy
this year.
I cannot believe non-conference is over. That is insane.
Now the midweek games you still had to look for.
Yeah.
But the series that we played, that just shows you how quick this goes by, folks. Enjoy it while you got it.
And same with softball. We'll get into it, but I mean they've played SEC games. It's
exactly
bonkers.
So what sticks out to you from this week? I mean, it is a mixed bag week with 2 losses.
Yeah, it's not fun, to go 500 on the week, especially with opponents you feel you should at least go 3-1 against, right? In some form or fashion. And so I think that, the midweek in-state games you always talked about, it's always a toss-up, no matter where it's played, because these schools want to prove themselves, right? These schools want to beat the bigger school, and the more, as the SEC school as it is. And so all those things, the losing at the very end like that is one of those things where that's baseball sometimes. I think the pitching is still a question mark, not as bad as it was last year so far, I don't think, but I think it can still be a question mark at times. And then I think that, when you look at yesterday, especially in the Old Dominion series, you just go, what the heck happened?
Was it 16 strikeouts but you gave up 9 unanswered?
9 unanswered in like 7th and 8th inning.
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought somebody was playing a joke on me because of how the day had already started with the basketball team. And then I saw that and I was like, what?
And people our people will just absolutely love this. But
go ahead and say it. Say it now.
We took the boys to the baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
I did not attend the Neville Arena game, by the way. For all of you, we're waiting on that. Maybe if I had somebody give me a ticket, we would have won. I'm just saying because I'm undefeated. I just want to mention that. If anybody has a whole weekend past the SEC tournament, let me know. But we left. We took the boys really just to get out of the house. I had not seen Plainsman this year. Gosh, it looks beautiful, by the way. Yeah. It looks so modernized. And I'm not saying modernized is always a good thing, but it looks so new and just like, classic. I didn't think that place could get better, and it does. We walked all the way from the new suite area all the way up to the wall. It's pretty awesome, Kyle. Pretty awesome.
I just thought of something, by the way, and I always forget her name. The lady that walks the stadium the entire game, Dr. What's her name? I'm giving her the doctor title. I'm not even sure. I do not
remember.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I have heard that, yeah.
She walks the stadium. Does she walk from War Eagle Wall now to that corner and not just the actual,
she's got some different views.
Views and stuff like that.
But we went, we were there from first pitch. I don't really remember when we left, but it was 9-2. And same as Kyle, when I got home, that was time to go to bed. The boys were getting antsy. And when I got home and a friend texted me and said, it's 9-8. nope, wait, it's now 9/11. And I was like, what? Like, what happened? And just, it reminds me very similarly, and I hope it does not foreshadowing, of the Boston College game last year.
Yeah.
Where I think the Auburn was up maybe 6 in the last couple innings and ended up losing the game, and pitching just kind of failed them, and then the SEC schedule went the way it was. So it's not a good taste to leave in your mouth the last weekend before SEC season. They did bounce back and win the series today. You go 2 out of 3 the rest of the way, you're setting yourself up for good to be in good shape. But there's still question marks about this team for sure, and we have talked about what the schedule looks like and how much of a gauntlet it is in the SEC. So they'll have to get it figured out soon.
Yeah. It's a grind out there, folks. And we've seen Auburn take down teams they weren't supposed to, and we've seen teams that probably weren't supposed to take down Auburn. Saddle up. That's all I can tell you. I will tell you what I think, and I hope that I'm getting this correct. I try to stay up with baseball as much as I can, but it's balancing basketball and all that right now is a little bit challenging. Chatterton, the pitcher Chatterton, seems to be kind of the bright spot right now in the third day, especially where he's been playing in the series. It seems like had a great game today. It sounded like to get the series win. It's been a nice little surprise, I think, for people.
Freshmen are the story of the season so far for Auburn baseball. I think when you throw in Chris Rimbert, I cannot remember his first name. Grant Freelick.
Yeah, Freilick. Yeah, I can't remember.
Grant? I know it's probably not.
Freilick is memorable enough, so we'll just say that.
Agreed. Freilick and then Chatterton, and I know there's others, but that top 5 recruiting class is showing, and it's helping Auburn win big games. You wonder how that'll do in the SEC play, like right when they will see the best opponents they've ever seen in their baseball careers, but. It's definitely a bright spot and really fun to see and think about the future for this team.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do in SEC play, and that begins in no short order. So good way to finish out getting the series win. Plenty more midweek games and plenty more SEC series coming up, and we'll be talking about them in great detail. Let's round out our time with softball, and this is a little bit of an incomplete week because they just completed only game 2 of this weekend series, but it is opening SEC weekend, and it is tough out there, as we told you it would be for SEC play, for softball especially. Auburn softball has had a great start to the year. I think a little bit surprising for some folks, just how effective they've been in some of their non-conference games. But it's the SEC, folks. Saddle up, get your big boy pants on and big girl pants on, because I think I just saw they took a loss for game 2. So 0-2 to start off in conference play. Won't win the series, but at Mississippi State. But doesn't really necessarily that's the indicators of everything that's going to happen the rest of SEC schedule. But what stuck out to you from either, and I would be remiss, they had a midweek game versus Troy, which they dominated. They won in 5. So other than how this started in SEC play, it's been a good week, I think.
Yeah, you got a chance to salvage it tomorrow and get one out of it, right? But a really hard fought loss last night. Just couldn't get the comeback against State to win and open that series. You wonder how that would have changed things maybe going into today. But just took a bad loss today at State. And so there's, like we just said with baseball, this will be the toughest opponents from here on out that they face. So progress is gonna have to be shown. We've already seen progress by the fact they have one loss in the whole non-con coming into this weekend. I know that those are inferior opponents. I just said I understand the gauntlet that is the SEC, but you hope that you take some out that you shouldn't along the way. You beat who you're right there with, and that's certainly a team like Mississippi State. But there's progress to be shown, and I think this team is probably learning as it goes. But the Malvos know the SEC, so they know what they're up against. They know what is coming, and I think there's a good chance that we see some surprises that continue from this program.
Yeah, and just a good little shout out and thing to pinpoint and kind of fine tune our discussion on softball. Personal best moment here. Nelia Peralta got her 100th career run scored this week. So obviously Nelia has been a name that we've been talking about a lot and we'll continue to talk about the rest of the season. She's powering some of that star power for the softball team alongside S.J. Guerin at the pitching staff. So good things still for Auburn. Rough way to start the SEC schedule, and it's not going to get much easier, but we will watch frequently and talk about it frequently in upcoming episodes of the Auburn Experience. That's going to do it for episode 116. We covered a lot, as per usual, and gear up, folks. March is here, baby. And I will say this as a quick final note. We are officially doing our bracket challenge, and our contest sponsor this year, we haven't officially announced it online, but I will do it on the show, is once again Alumni Hall. So we very much appreciate them stepping up for your prize for winning our bracket contest this year. So if you're getting excited for that, get further excited now that they're back involved with us this year, and we appreciate them doing that. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at KyleLoomis24. Where can they find you?
Yeah, on X, on Austin, or on Instagram at Austin G. Scott. Would love to hear from you.
Love to hear from you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.